Hi! Somebody the other day wrote and asked how to fix holes in wood. I do that several ways. I'll show you some of them. For this exercise, I'm going to use this piece of cedar. First scenario, the easiest one, taking care of dented wood. From this angle, we can see them a little better. To fix this, I spray water on the wood. But not any kind of water. The water that came directly from my dehumidifier. This way, I'm sure it doesn't contain any minerals in it. Okay, it's far from being gracious, but it does the job. When the wood is wet, I lay a rag on top and heat this with an iron so the water will turn into steam. This is the reason why we should always have an iron in the shop. And with the steam, the dents almost disappear. It even shows less if I sand it a little. But I must admit, this is the easiest thing to fix. This works most of the time. For my second scenario, I drill a hole that I'll fill with wood. For that, I use a plug cutter. But if you use this kind of tool, don't be as aggressive as me. I've destroyed my first plug. I have to cut another one. But since it's cedar, it's not that strong. I break this one too. But 3 times a charm. I just need to break the plug and push it in place, taking care to align the wood grain. After sanding this a bit, it's not that bad. But we don't always have round holes to plug. That's the reason why on plywood sheets you can see plugs that often have odd shapes. It's time now for another solution. This time I use some wood filler. You can find this in different colors. For myself, I like light colors because it's easier to add my own. That's the reason why I always keep small containers with sawdust from different wood species in the shop. I can mix wood filler with wood dust, and what I like about this kind of product is that I can add a bit of water to make it even thinner. So after mixing this, I can fill another hole. But I like to mix wood filler with color pigments. So for that, I use my father's old doctor bag. In this bag, I can find everything to repair finish and also a bunch of small bottles filled with color pigments. I use this powder to tint the wood filler. Okay, don't do this at home. This is way too much. Here it's evident that the color is way too dark. There are still more solutions, like mixing wood dust with glue. But each kind of glue has its own base color. In the shop, I have 3 different colors. But in the end, this doesn't make any difference. You'll see. I mix the same quantity of glue and dust for each different color, and I fill the holes with them. I can also fill holes with epoxy. When I do that, I always use epoxy that takes about 1 hour to cure. And to show that the amount of wood dust doesn't matter, I pour my mix in 3 small containers. I mix the first one with half a spoon of dust, the second with 3/4 of a spoon, and the last a full spoon. You can add about anything to epoxy, even acrylic paint. But be aware that the paint won't dry inside the epoxy, and you won't be able to sand it. But you still can achieve colorful color. When it's well mixed, I fill the holes with epoxy. And it goes from very runny to almost a paste. To finish my test, I need to wait for all this to dry. This will be the perfect time to refinish the top of my workbench. The next day, I can sand this and clean it. To really see what this will look like at the end, I even brush a coat of varnish. And now you can see that miracles don't exist. All my repairs are really obvious. But it's even tougher if you want to dye or stain this afterwards. To show it, I remove the varnish and apply some water-based stain. And a coat of varnish on top. The winner when it's stained is actually the wood plug. But it's not what I call an invisible repair. That's why when I use plugs, I use wood with another color. This doesn't look like I wanted to hide a mistake, but rather that it's part of the design. But my favorite way of filling holes is with lacquer sticks. Yes, my father had a few. I find a color that I think will be alright. This is applied with hot tools. I heat them in a small oven. But this works better on small holes, like screw holes. For fun, I'll fill 3 holes with 3 different colors. I must admit that my father's old tools work way better than the new one I bought. To conclude this, I sand and apply a coat of varnish. And here's the result. Okay, not close to the desired color. That's the reason why my father had a nice collection of lacquer sticks. But it's possible to have the right color. Just look at my bedroom. With wood filler and colored powder, I managed to match the stain color. But one thing for sure is that you need to test this before jumping on your nice kitchen table. Otherwise, this can be a disaster. I hope you like this different type of episode. I would gladly love your input. This might not show, but I've worked over 10 hours to produce this video. And if nobody likes it, I won't waste any time on this type of videos in the future. But if you like it, I would gladly appreciate if you let me know and support me on Patreon, so I can continue to produce videos with this quality. And see you soon for another episode of the Woodpecker.